Good afternoon and good morning. Welcome to the Charlie MIKE'22 webinar series hosted by the National Veteran Small Business Coalition. Thank you for joining us today. We'd like to thank our sponsors, BAE Systems and Philips, for making this webinar series possible. A few announcements. We are right around the corner from the NVSBC Foundation Charity Golf Tournament. There's still a few slots left, so if you want to play golf and then network with your fellow business owners, please sign up at www.nvsbc.org. Also, here's your official invitation for the first annual Veterans GovCon Awards Gala, which is being held on Tuesday, September 13th at 5:30. We will have that gala at the Army Navy Country Club in Alton, Virginia. Tickets for this gala is $95. So please go to www.nvsbc.org to sign up for your tickets. And if you want to go back to previous Charlie Mikes and see any special events, any testimonials, you can find us on YouTube. So please subscribe today. Okay, this webinar is 1 hour and 15 minutes and is being recorded. Our recordings and slides will be sent to attendees by Monday. If you have any questions, please type it on the right hand of your screen on the control panel. And I'd like to introduce myself. You guys know me well. I am Earl Morgan, the Program Director for the NVSBC. And I would like to welcome back to Charlie Mike for the second year, Kirk McLaren, CEO of Foresight CFO, who's going to talk about the 5 habits of winning more contracts. So Kirk, thank you for joining us for this webinar, and the floor will now be yours.
Okay, now, Earl, we're going to turn things up. Let me get hold of the screen share.
Hold on. You should have it right now.
Here we go. Okay, and are you seeing the full screen or the note screen?
I'm seeing the note screen.
We had to change this last time. Let's see. Here we go. I can see the button now.
Okay, get your screen going.
Yeah, I just got to pick the right one. So let me, here we go. That's the one. Okay, can you see the whole screen now?
I can see the whole screen.
Yeah, it takes a minute to pass the torch here. So let's jump right in, right? I'd like to tell you a story, but I have to admit, when I was in it, I thought I knew how it was going to end, but boy, was I wrong, right? So as I tell you this story, you might think you know how it's going to end, but I'd like to ask you to indulge me, right? Let's see what actually happens before you decide. So do you remember when your business was at the starting line? You know, ready, mark, right? Set, go. Now your company's moving, right? You're off the ground, it's competitive. You may not be the biggest company, but you're striving to be the best. And you know, since we entrepreneurs, we're optimistic. We look ahead. We see hurdles. It's just one hurdle. We jump over it. And you know, it took some effort, but we got it. And sometimes we hit the hurdle. We hit the hurdle hard. We land on the ground, and then we get back up and we take many hurdles. Right? It's a continuous. Sometimes it's grind. Sometimes it's a whirlwind, but it's continuous. So there's three things that are listed on my whiteboard behind me. As you listen to this story, I would love for you to keep these in mind. You know, first, the procurement officer knows. Second, competitive pricing is tough. And third, when we combine the first two with proactively getting access to capital, we find gold, right? So this story is, you know, it's based on a true story. Washington, D.C. Beltway bandit, government contractor. The CEO is an Army veteran, and I'm an Army veteran, so that's got to be good, right? the CEO is exceptional at building relationships, and that translates into, this was a company that always had a backlog, always had a pipeline, always had more business than they could do, right? And the CEO hustles. He has an extremely strong work ethic. Quite frankly, some of the things that he worked through would have stopped most people. And most of the work was staff augmentation, right? There was some other work, but most of it was staff augmentation. So the first thing procurement officers know. So most CEOs struggle with the numbers story. As a result, the numbers, the financials aren't clean. Sometimes they're confusing. Sometimes they're inaccurate. And surprisingly, even some that were audited by a third-party CPA firm are still confusing, still not accurate, right? Which is kind of surprising. So imagine what it's like when the procurement officer gets your financials, right? They have experience looking at hundreds of financials. They look at your financials in the blink of an eye. They have some indication on how sophisticated the business is based on the condition of the financial statements. Plus, if sending the financial statements are delayed, they know you're not ready, right? On top of that, they compare your performance to your competitors, right? Industry benchmark, where are you strong, where are you weak, kind of things. They, by just looking at the number story, the procurement officer getting a real good feel about your capability. So at this point, many CEOs they're feeling naked, right? They're feeling exposed the minute they have to submit their financial, because that's when the truth comes out. So the procurement officer knows that only 2% of businesses make it, right? Only 4% are still around after the 10th year. 88% fail due to cash management. And for 8A companies, almost 90% fail within 2 years of graduating from the program. Basically, they never developed a business that was able to compete, beyond the set-asides. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is pricing is tough, right? Isn't pricing frustrating? You put together a proposal, you send it off, the procurement officer accepts it, and you're like, dang, maybe you should have charged more, right? If they don't accept it, you should have charged less. But how do you know, right? Pricing is tough. So most government contractors have a hybrid approach to pricing. There's cost plus the indirect rate, right? There's other types of pricing, but this seems to be the most common for the businesses I worked with. The plus is the hard part. What percentage is too much? What do you need to cover overhead? What can you include in that indirect rate calculation? What do you have to exclude, right? So it's tough. It seems to be, there's lots of gray. People are never quite certain, and then sometimes the overhead, the indirect rate, makes the project so expensive you really question. Will the procurement officer go for it? So this is made worse because government contractors, there's a lot of pressure, commodity-like pricing pressure, where squeezing, as long as you meet the technical requirements, then the low bidder tends to get the work, right? So there's a lot of pressure pushing things down. Even when the CEO can't figure out the right plus, they add it anyway. So what happens? Either we're leaving money on the table, or we don't get the work because we're overpriced, right? So I don't know about you, but there were plenty of times I thought that the pricing was not as thought through as it could have been, right? I look at pricing and often think that, we got a problem. So gaining the procurement officer's confidence was a problem for this company. Competitive pricing was a problem, right? The problem was made worse because banks went to get lines of credits for working capital, and banks rejected our loans. They rejected our lines of credit. And it's everything going good until we submit the financials, and then, or in this case, when they submit the financials, this is before we worked with them. It's almost impossible to fund the timing difference between payroll and getting paid by the government if you're doing it out of pocket, especially if you're getting the big contracts and doing rapid growth. So the third key point is proactively getting access to capital, right? Have you ever had a hobby like golfing, the tournament that that Earl's talking about, boating, maybe you garden, right? If you get away from your hobby for a little while, when you come back, everything's covered with dust, the weeds are coming up, the engine won't start, parts are missing, right? Have you ever had this experience? I know I have. I start doing something, do it for a few years, and then put it aside because it's not my main thing, right? Then it gets dusty, right? Your financials and your financial health of your business are the same, right? If it's not your thing, and most often financial management is not the CEO's thing, right? To develop a world-class finance and accounting operation just isn't what most of us do, nor should it be, right? Most likely the finance and accounting operation has been neglected, right? Sales, delivery, but the back office is dusty, right? There's missing parts, missing team members. So that was exactly the case with the CEO in our story. When lenders asked for financials, it took months, right? And once the financials were delivered, anybody accustomed to looking at the numbers story, glaring errors, more questions are coming back. And there's not easy answers because the financials are inaccurate, right? From this, the business, even though it was cash flowing, delivering contracts, it was just not bankable because the financials were in such bad shape. And that also impacts the ability to be bonded. So, yet the business needed cash to fuel growth, right? The timing differences, payroll to government paying is just too big. So the CEO needed cash to build out, they needed to build people capacity. They needed working capital to cover the timing difference between payroll and payment. And they needed to be able to get through the funding underwriting. In some cases for construction projects, they had to get bonded, which is, a bonder underwriting can look at the same things that a lender's going to look at. And they're going to see if there's glaring errors, if the financials don't make sense, they're going to see it. So on top of all that, the CEO was embarrassed. He knew the back office wasn't top notch, right? The financial statements were not on par with their performance in other areas of the business. In some ways, this is a CFO's nightmare because there's so much going on, and the financials have been neglected for so long. There's not an easy, quick, obvious fix, right? So our job as growth CFOs is decipher what's going on. This is what we did. We do this with all of our clients. We break everything down into 90-day sprints. And during our first 90-day sprint with this client, we did a financial health check to identify exactly what's going on. Let's get to the accounting foundation and find out what's happening, what's not happening, so we can take that next step to getting financials to make ourselves bankable. Then we guided the accountants to take action and follow through. We got a foothold on establishing the habits of profitability, and at the same time, we created a financial flight plan going forward. So it wasn't long before we were bankable. We were audit and due diligence ready. We were tracking with the industry benchmarks. And now that you have a feeling for what was going on, let me explain to you how we gained the procurement officer's confidence. We improved competitive pricing, and how we gained access to capital to find gold. And this is where we start getting into those 5 habits of profitability. So every month we use the financials. We taught managers how to scrub the financial detail to make sure that every month, every line item is exactly right. Then we taught managers how to understand the numbers story, the variance from actuals to plan, so that they knew how to take actions. And then we use the numbers story to make decisions, and you can start to feel the weight that the managers are being empowered, taking ownership of the numbers. You start to feel the weight coming off the CEO's shoulders. So in addition, we had in our other hand, in addition to teaching people to use the P&L to gain clarity, in our other hand, we had our hand on the cash lever. So we looked at what for different agencies, what's the billing cycle? Can we get bills out faster? Can we bill more frequently, right? And then collections, right? What's that cash conversion cycle? How much velocity of money do we have going through? And usually you can see 1 or 2 things where you can pick things up and make it even better for the company to get and retain cash, get cash faster, retain it longer. So we matched up the short term, using that 12-week cash forecast, matched the short-term cash coming in versus cash coming out. So we decide every week what payments do we make and which ones we hold back for later on. With this, we can make sure that we built the funding to make payroll on time with no sweat, no cash crunch. And then we moved from doing commodity staff augmentation work with there's lots of pricing pressure to doing other things. In this case, in the cybersecurity realm, that's more value added, where we had special skills and to get a price premium. So we used the flight, on top of that, we used the financial flight plan to engineer profit going forward under what if. What overhead investments can we make to be more effective? Which one should be done now? Which one should be done later across that flight plan? Plus, we figured out how to hit a specific valuation. At some point, the CEO is slightly older than me. At some point, the CEO wants to step back, pass the torch, and if he has a business that's valuable and not dependent on him, he can get paid the second time with succession. So we figured, what does that look like, right? And then what we learned from this story is that when the habits of profitability become a strength, we gain peace of mind and you get the payoff, you get the gold, right? And so this is the difference between CFO, traditional CFO, and controller work, which a lot of times is accounting. These are the people who look in the rearview mirror saying, what are the numbers for last month? Versus a growth CFO that says, what did we do last month? What do we need to stop doing this month so that we can have the best month ever next month, right? So the growth CFO is, engineering outcomes going forward using the financial information from accounting to gain clarity. So with the growth CFO, CEOs go from jumping hurdles to flight. That's the difference. Okay, so let's go into kind of the main thing. Let's unpack the 5 habits of profitability that this CEO used to do, go from kind of a whirlwind and cash crunch situation to doing really well. 3 of the habits are proven financial management techniques, and 2 of the habits provide clarity and confidence on how to build a competitive business, right? So we're going to do because of the time, we're going to do a CEO level flyby. And I'm pretty sure Earl shares the decks and the recording after the event, so you can go back and extract what's useful to you. So, starting with habit 1, right? This is cash. Cash is the fuel for your flight. The habit, depending on your cash balance, it could be as frequently as every week, Monday morning, take a look at your 12-week cash forecast. What do you expect to come in? And what do you expect to go out, right? And you can match them up. There could be action items for people to make a bigger effort to collect money that's due to you, right? So okay. And if anyone has questions, I invite you to interject, put them in the chat box, and Earl, you'll bring the questions to me. Is that right?
Yes, I will read the questions to you.
Okay. So habit number 1 is achieve positive cash flow. Make it. It's this practice of the 12-week cash forecast. It could be as frequently as every week. Based on the money coming out and money going out, take action items to bill faster, collect money that's due, that's overdue. And it could be, if your cash balance is good, you could slow it down to the habit is every other week, could be once a month, but no less than once a month, look at your 12-week cash forecast, right? So there's no surprises. You still have, if you become short, 8 weeks out, you still have time to do something about it. And in the bonus for achieving positive cash flow is measure the cycles in your business, the cash conversion cycle, to figure out what is the velocity of money. How fast do you bill? How frequently do you bill? Are there ways where you get deposits or for small payments, hit a credit card or ACH or something like that? More likely possible in the commercial world, less likely in government contracting, but definitely worth looking at your cash conversion and challenge tradition, You know, are there different ways you can do things to get more money up front with the government contract versus waiting 30, 60, 90 days for it? The more your business drives positive cash flow, almost dollar for dollar, your business becomes increasingly more valuable, right? If you're less capital intense versus more capital intense. So that's habit number one, is get the cash right. Going back to 88% of businesses fail because they run out of cash. You can be not profitable as long as your cash flow and the doors stay open. Okay, so the next habit is to drive impact with the financial scoreboard, right? No one wants to say financial because it sounds less exciting, but financial scoreboard, right? You get the report, it's your managers that have profit and loss responsibility. You teach the managers before they come into the meeting to scrub the numbers so that what you're looking at is accurate, and teach them to take you through their number story. They expected one thing, where they at in regards to the plan? Are they over or under? Why? You know, and that the 80-20 Pareto principle, based on the things that really matter and move the needle, you use critical thinking to figure out where to take action, right? And it's coming from your manager, so it's manager driven versus a lot of times in the private government contracted businesses, the CEO is carrying too much weight on their shoulders. But instead, as a habit, every month, have it, you know, religiously on your calendar, that recurring meeting, and let the managers walk you through their numbers, right? And do the explanations make sense based on what you know about the business, and does the action make sense based on what you know? So habit 2 is that, and you know, you can look at monthly variance to plan, year-to-date variance. You can look at variance to products. You can look at variance down to, you know, different contract vehicles. You know, there's no law that your financials have to look a certain way. So set them up in a way that's most intuitive to you and your managers to see where you can take action. But every month, that's the habit. Okay, taking the next step, habit 3. This is still flyby level. There's, of course, a lot you can get into, especially this one. This is, you know, habit 3 is developing the 8 drivers to get paid twice. And these drivers, literally based on a database of 34,000 private companies, it's proven that if you're doing better in each of these versus not so well, on average, your company is 71% more valuable than the competitors. And you can figure out from a profit standpoint today, what does that do for you? And then from a value standpoint tomorrow, when you're passing the torch to your business, what does that do for you? That second, you know, that second payday, so you get paid twice. The drivers that are most underdeveloped in government contractors, uniqueness, right? Especially staffing augmentation. It's a commodity, right? It's a butts and seats. You're really not adding much value besides, you know, where people are getting their paycheck. So there's going to be a lot of pricing pressure on that. Low margin, lots of work, low margin. So maybe think about uniqueness. You know, what does your agency care about? And what can you do that's uniquely valuable to them? There might be a chance, both in GovCon and the commercial world, to do something really useful. And you see a lot of that now with cybersecurity. There's such a push for that, and the market is very fragmented. So if you have something uniquely effective that your agency cares about, a lot of times you can get a price premium for that type of work. And there could be other things. So the whole idea is, if you look at around the dial, these are all dependencies. You know, ownership is the business depends on you for major activities such as sales, business development, delivery. It could be even some of the back office support. If the business is dependent on you for certain things, minimal, you get when you pass the torch for a business, you get tied into an earnout on average 2.5 years, and invariably earnouts don't go well. But you're accustomed to being the boss, doing things your way, and now you work for somebody else while you earn, you know, the money that you sold your business for. Whatever you didn't get up front, you got on average a 2.5-year earnout to earn that money. Doesn't go well. But if you develop the owner's trap, the business is not dependent on you, right? You can go on vacation for a month and not take your cell phone with you, not take your laptop, and not work, because when you come back, your team, they carry the water. So that's when you know you escape the owner's trap, kind of the litmus test. Anybody can leave their business for a month, but a lot of times you come back and it's what happened, right? Or even a week. A lot of times people are on their phones. If you're doing that, you're in the owner's trap, and your business is less valuable because too much of the business is you versus independent of you. You need this recurring revenue, right? The multi-year projects, extensions. If you have some kind of maintenance contract where every month you're getting paid on something, almost think of a telephone company where every month they're getting that annuity. So recurring revenue is much more valuable than short-term project revenue. If you have a multi-year project, you got a backlog and you got a pipeline, you can defend value in your business. If you got short projects and you got feast and famine and people on the bench, that kind of stuff, that's going to work against your profitability, the value in the value of your business. If you're dependent on suppliers, we saw that with the post-COVID effect, supply chains being knocked out. So if you're dependent on suppliers, you're less value. If you're dependent on key employees, somebody who's been with you for years and they got all their know-how inside their head, you're less valuable, right? Plus, that day you get the knock on the door and you know that a key person is resigning for whatever reason, it's going to set you back 6 months. So those kinds of dependencies are not good. Customers, right? If all your money's coming from 1 or 2 contract vehicles, you got customer dependency, right? And more stress if you lose one, and less valuable business, because who wants to buy, a company that has 1 contract or 2 or 3 contracts, right? It's not, it's not robust enough to make that kind of investment. Okay, so that's kind of the key one. There's 8 drivers in all. Of all the things you can do by focus on these, you get clarity, and these are the ones that are proven. If you're making decisions and following through on it, that are proven to make it your business easier to manage today, make your business more profitable today and cash flowing better. And then at the point you want to pass the torch, and there's 7 different options to pass the torch, you're going to get a much bigger payoff. Okay. Earl, any questions so far?
No questions so far. I think everybody's listening.
Yes, 7 succession options. Okay. So let's take the step to keep doing our flyby here. Habit number 4, using the budget to engineer profit. And I don't know about you guys, but when I hear the word budget, I think bureaucracy, I think administrative, I think not something I get excited about. And most or many companies that do budget, it's just that way. Everybody gets their piece, and you hear managers say things like, how can I put down what I think is going to happen 6 months from now, because I don't know what's going to happen? Well, of course you don't know what's going to happen exactly, but based on what we know now, right? You teach managers. It's a skill, and you got to. If people haven't done it before, it's intimidating, especially if you're the business development person, because now you're sticking your neck way out, right? And you're going to know 6 months from now, 12 months from now. It's going to be real easy to measure. Did you hit it? Are you over? Are you under? Right? And it's rather stressful every month and making excuses on why something's delayed or whatever. So budgeting, there's a lot of reasons why people don't do it. Most people are not numbers people. Some are, if you're engineers, that kind of stuff, but most people aren't. And so it's a learned skill, right? By the 3rd or 4th time doing it, it starts getting really useful. But some of the key things, there's 2 times you want to do it at a minimal. Going into the next year, when you're doing planning, you line up the financial resources, create that 12-month rolling budget. And then at least mid-year, 6 months into the year, you're going to know more at that moment than you could possibly know 6 months prior. So at least mid-year. You can reforecast more frequently if there's certain milestones. Like if you're an education institution, you might reforecast twice at the end of each semester. But reforecast at least by mid-year, so you're taking what you know, and you're forecasting out another 12 months. Like for example, if it's, we just finished June and it's July, and I want to reforecast, I should reforecast all the way through June of 2023. So I'm developing that skill to be able to plan and follow through in that 12-month time horizon, right? And it's a skill. You get as you do it, the managers get tighter and tighter about what they can plan, follow through, what they can estimate. And the whole thing is, your budgets, your forecast will be exactly wrong, but approximately correct, and that's all you need to have that flight plan for that first year, your multi-year destination. So, and it's interesting. Many times when managers, your CFO, the CEO, when you create your first baseline budget, they stop, and that's it. It adds up. We're not losing money. There's nothing else to do. But as the CEO, if you can challenge beyond that, well, what if? Right? What if we went after this product, this area? What if we hired these people? What if we bought this equipment? Right? And you can really see, on the what if. What is it? What if we made an investment, a real investment in a business? Most GovCons who struggle it seems to be on that BD side, right? They can't get the contracts. It's competitive. You got the biggest buyer in the world, but it's competitive, right? So what if we invested money in the BD? And here's the scary part: is, well, how do you know they're performing? Because a lot of us make investments, but then they don't come through on what's promised, right? You hire certain people, that kind of stuff, but that's where you get at a minimal, your monthly financials, right? And you can see if you're over or under. If you're world class, your monthly financials are translated into not just financials, but you have at a minimal weekly or daily dashboard across every desktop, every function, where team members can see where they're at. They over or under. They can take action that day to make sure if the parts add up, and then the parts will add up to the whole, and you're achieving your first months. You got more opportunities to make sure you stay on flight plan every month, right? So the skill is really do some what if, and don't do the marginal incremental stuff that doesn't matter. Really break, what are bold moves? What would really be big for you? You got goals. What is it going to take to get there? These habits will protect you, right? You'll know where the cash is as you assess and as you do bold moves to do really well. The growth CFO, the financial habits will protect you, because you'll see if things are moving sideways sooner versus later. You'll make sure you have enough cash both today and tomorrow, right? So doing the what if to figure out what is the best flight plan forward, and what is the stress test? What point does the model, the business start to break, right? And why? What else? What do you need to go to the next level? Then we'll take a step into habit 5, where you use an analysis to gain clarity, right? This is where we're playing chess instead of checkers. Going beyond the dashboard, the daily KPI, going beyond the monthly financials. What key information will help you and your managers make real decisions? Like, do you have a multi-year flight plan to your destination, or are you just working year to year to see what happens? Do you have a future org chart? This whole thing about start with the end in mind. What does that look like? If we double, what does it look like? What additional capability do we need at that level that we don't need on this level, right? You literally can see it. Oh, right. Then more or less a beeline from here to there, or maybe less zigzaggy, right? Your valuation. When was the last time you had? Don't go pay Price Waterhouse $30,000 for evaluation, but you can do a managerial level one, right? Based on the forecasted cash flow. What does that come back as? What's giving you lift? What's giving you drag? Competitive benchmarks, right? What is the top 20% in your industry? Because once you're there, that a lot more doors are open. It's easier to be bankable, right? As long as everything else is in order, you get what you need. Procurement officer, they do benchmarks to see where you're at, and so probably a good idea if you're doing that. At least the habit is at least once a year. Is there found money, R&D tax credits, workforce development credits, right? Are there cost savings for what you're already buying? You know, by going through a bigger procurement channel. Compensation studies. Are new employees making more money than employees who've been with you, right? That's going to be a problem. What's your first look loan score, your free cash to support, you know, whatever you need to scale the business? Another really big opportunity for a lot of companies. If you're doing government contracting is one thing. If you're doing you know, if you're doing customer work, we have a lot of different customers. Doing the 80-20 customer segmentation. Who are your best customers? Who love what you're doing, right? And how do you align everything you're doing? Bundle services and products, align pricing, right? Align your sales and marketing effort to get more of those customers. And it could be the same thing on government contracting. Some contracts, you know, barely make it. All right, but if you do customer segmentation, you got clarity on where to invest to do even better. Products, pricing analysis, trends in your industry. So habit 5 is figuring out what do you not know that would be really useful for you and your team to have clarity on, right? So that's habit 5. Play chess, not checkers. Okay, all in one place. These are the 5 habits of profitability. If you do these things consistently, then you're going to have financial documents that are accurate, that literally financial documents that gain the procurement officer's confidence. You're going to be able to price competitively because you're going to be automatically you're going to be a leaner organization. If you look at financials every month and you do the annual planning, and you look at where you stand in respect to plan, you cut out the fat, right? Versus sometimes things just kind of build up, and you know, almost like that hobby that you stop. So by making the habit yours, you gain the procurement officer's confidence. You'll be able to price competitively because you're lean, and you know what your indirect rate is. Right? There's no guessing what's included, what's not included, and you have the capital you need. When you go to the bank, you get the line of credit. When you go to we need to be bonded. The underwriters like what they see with you. You get the bonding that you need, the insurance that you need. Right. So these are the 5 habits. Okay. And then if you want to learn more and talk specifically about your company, if you email me or go to my website, we can schedule a 25-minute discovery call and talk specifically about what destination you want, where you're at, and what's keeping you from getting there. And maybe there's some insight. If you're not ready to have that discovery call, our book is coming out on September the 27th, and it's available now by pre-order with Amazon. That could be a good place to go deeper into how does a growth CFO help you obliterate the obstacles of growth, establish the habits of profitability, and set you up for, you know, succession options. And you know, it's been a pleasure talking with you all a bit, and we're landing pretty early, Earl, but it's been a pleasure talking to you guys all. If you have any questions, you know, please feel free to chat, you know, that kind of stuff.
Great, thank you. So don't be shy. We have this issue every week. People are shy, they don't want to ask questions, so we got plenty of time. So please ask away. If you're watching this webinar, this recording, please, you see Kirk's information on the screen here. Please contact Kirk and get some more information on how to be a 2% CEO. So I'm gonna give you guys some time. Not a lot of time, a little time to formulate some questions. Kirk, is there anything you want to add to this webinar before we leave?
Yeah, I mean, with some of the infrastructure bills being passed, kind of, there's got to be more money coming down for both state and federal contracts. So I mean, you know, if you want to step it up, it's a good time to do it. I'm not sure what's being passed or what's not being passed anymore. There's always
something. Right. So I do like to announce that not only Kirk has been on Charlie Mike twice, but he also agreed to do a weekly column in our monthly newsletter, First Call. So if you want any more information or advice on finances, please subscribe to First Call and you could check Kirk's column. Look like we're being shy here. Look, we have no questions. But again, if you feel like asking Kirk questions, you have his information on the screen there. Please don't hesitate to contact Kirk and ask any questions.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, Earl, thank you so much for the invitation. I mean,
oh, thank you for doing it again. I know this has been 2 years in a row now, and you know we love having you. And now you're going to be part of the newsletter. You're going to give us a lot of insight on being on finance and being a CFO.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay. Well, again, thank you all for joining us. And if you have any questions, please contact Kirk. You can't get a hold of him, get a hold of me. So again, thank you. This recording will be on YouTube by Friday, and we will send the recording out hopefully by Friday, no later than Monday. So you guys put me to work. So you guys gave me a deadline. So so thank you, and I will see all of you next week.
Yep.
Take care.
See you, Earl. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.